Hey everyone, welcome to the open house of Tech in Asia School. My name is Ting and I'm part of the Tech in Asia School team, as well as Maria, who we also have on the line. You there, Maria? Actually, I think Maria dropped out for a second. She's actually tuning in from the US, so pardon her connection. Um, but yeah, welcome everyone. This is a very casual session on Tech in Asia School, meant for everybody to ask all your burning questions about what the program is going to be like, how the application is going to be, how can you participate, whether you're the right profile or not, and all sorts. So let's get to it while we kind of, oh, actually, here she is. Hey, Maria. Dropped out for a second.
So sorry about that. I'm just going to say the US's infrastructure is not as good as Singapore's.
There we go. Yeah, everything was going so well. But anyway, this also works. So do you want to have any opening remarks that you want to mention?
No, I mean, I think let's jump into it. I'm just super excited to be with everyone today. I think school is going to be absolutely amazing. Ting and I actually were just talking about the awesome candidates and the applications already started reviewing. And so really excited to share more about the program, our vision for it, and what y'all can all expect as potential attendees.
I mean, we have some questions that we've come up on our own, what we think, what people would ask about school. But please feel free to, while you guys have us on the line, to drop in some questions on the question box, anything you want, and then we can answer them as best as we can. But I would like to start off with one question that actually the audience has wrote in from Marcella. She's asked, do we have to have our own business or business idea prior to joining school? This is a two-pronged question. And then the second one is there a minimum age you think that we should, for us to join school?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think those are great questions and we're getting those a lot. So let's go back to, I think, what we want school to be. We really want school to be that go-to content plus community for any founder within this region. And where we're starting specifically is with a cohort and a track around aspiring founders. By aspiring founders, we mean anybody who, you want to start your own startup, but you haven't quite taken that plunge yet. So you might be like working a job and you're just like working on your side hustle or dreaming up ideas on the side. That is going to be our first cohort, and we're launching that in February 2022. So for anyone on the aspiring founders track, definitely do not need to have an idea. If you do have an idea, you're more than welcome, obviously, to bring it into the program. Our program is specifically designed to help you work on a different part of your startup idea, so that by the end of the 8-week program, you're actually you're going to be basically launch ready, whether you choose to do that. So for Marcella, no, you don't need to come in with an idea for the aspiring founders track, but we are launching a second track that's going to come up in April of next year. And that one's called the Rising Founders track. And these are for founders who have actually already launched their startup. And the difference is that this track is going to be a lot more intensive, and it's going to troubleshoot specific areas that early stage founders consistently feedback to us that they need help with. So we do have different tracks for different maturity of founders, depending on where they are in their journey, so that we can kind of like cater the overall like course and community and the mentorship to each particular founder. And then for the second question, is whether or not there is an age requirement. I mean, honestly, absolutely not. Like we've seen fantastic founders come out of, like basically uni, high school dropouts, whatever, college dropouts, all the way up to, very experienced, like 3 or 4 time executives. So I don't think we have any sort of like age limitations on this. It really depends on like the clarity of your vision, the passion you're bringing to the startup, the problem that you're trying to solve. Those are the things we care about.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting when you're grouped into a cohort with such a mixed bag of people, but with all the same vision and same goal. And then hopefully along the way, you might also find a co-founder, because in order to find a co-founder, you need to be with someone that's in the trenches, that you've solved problems together, and then the entire program will be designed that way, where you can solve issues and have some like problems to do along the way. It's very, very hands-on and interactive, and not like just watching a lecture and then that's it. And then another note on like the idea, like having a business idea thing, is that if you take a look at our program syllabus, I think on week 3 or something, that's all about generating ideas and validating it. So you might come in with an idea, but then through the course of the syllabus, you might have another one. Or if you don't have one, then we can create one together, and then that can be your main idea, and you workshop that throughout the 8 weeks. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Absolutely.
Okay. So to follow on from that, let's think about can you still join Tech in Asia School if you're an Maria, are you still around? Can you still join Tech in Asia School? How is Tech in Asia School being streamed? Since this is a great example. You're in the US. I'm in Singapore right now, and we're still having this conversation. So that's the great thing about virtual events. But there are a few people asking whether you can join school in different locations.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tech in Asia School has been designed to be virtual first. And we're doing this because one of the main things that we've identified, and the reason that we're starting this, is because we felt like there aren't a lot of great local resources for Southeast Asian founders. There's obviously lots of great, like fantastic global resources, but Southeast Asia is a really complex region. And like anybody who lives here, works here, kind of understands that. And so we've designed our curriculum so that we can deliver it and try to tackle the biggest problems facing Southeast Asian founders in order to do so. And we would have done this honestly with or without like the COVID like travel restrictions. But in order to do so, one of the things we need to do is make sure that our content and curriculum could basically be delivered virtually and still have the same effectiveness as like any in-person classroom setting. That's not to say that like when we can, we would love to of course get the community together in person when and where it makes sense. But I think content delivery, people can learn really well like in a virtual environment, and that's how we've designed it. So yeah, so anywhere, if you can be anywhere Southeast Asia, you can be anywhere in Asia, anywhere in the world, honestly. But if your goal is to launch a great startup within this region, we will cater to that.
Yeah, and then maybe while we're talking about the whole community aspect of it all, in our website, it shows that we deliver a great syllabus, and then there's also the founders community. Let's talk more about that. Like, what is this founders community?
Yeah, so this founders community is basically like a bonus bid for your program fee. So, and I think that this is, over the long term, one thing that I'm actually the most excited about, because I think it can reap like massive rewards for founders within this region. But the founders community is basically going to be like a primarily online driven, again, founders community where you will have different access to people who are within your world, right? And so like, again, one thing about being a founder, whether or not you're a solo founder, is that it can actually be a very lonely journey. There are lots of challenges, and like at the end of the day, all the pressure and expectations end up falling on you. So most founders love talking to other founders because it just makes them feel like they have somebody to connect and communicate with. So the founders community is basically going to be the graduates from all of our different programs. We'll start to form like smaller groups within our broader community for you based on like founders also at the same maturity level, founders in the same like vertical space as you, founders with like whatever, right? So we can start to put together like affinity groups between the founders, and then that way you always have access to a pool of people who really understand what you're going through. It can be like a springboard, can be resource, can help provide connections, or honestly can just be like a great friend, potential co-founder, whatever it might be. So for anybody who joins, you'll get, of course, access to like the 8-week program. That's no doubt, that's our content side. But then you'll also get a 1-year access to our founders community, because obviously we know that you can't possibly do this all within 8 weeks, and the hardest stuff is probably going to come at like month 3, month 4, months 5 and 6, whatever. And we want to make sure that TIA School, our community, is still there for you, to help you like all the way.
Yeah, and that's like really the exciting bit for us, to kind of create little events and little programs to help people facilitate their relationships along the way. And then, that's going to be a year long. We're going to have events in a week, a month, and all that. Right.
Absolutely.
So now that we're talking about like all this, whether the 8 weeks and then the community is going to take a year, what is the time commitment, and do people need to quit their jobs, or if they're still in school, can they like double up this as a part-time thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, on the Aspiring Founders program, we have designed this specifically assuming that people have not launched their startup yet, which means they're not working on their startup full time. So it's actually been designed to be part-time. What we're going to do is basically break down. The reason it's 8 weeks is because we don't want to take up so much of your time per week, but we want to also get you through the most necessary materials and concepts. So it's going to be 8 weeks. It'll be mostly in the evenings. We're going to start with an orientation, end with a graduation. We're really going to try to run this like a school program. And basically what we'll ask for is like 1 or 2 hours from you, 2 hours from you in the evenings, once or twice a week. And then basically some time to work on like whatever that at home weekly sprint is. But again, everything has been designed so that it's as like applicable as possible. So if you are working on your startup, it's basically any time that you would already be spent working on your startup, but channeled through the school curriculum. And then we'll spend lots of time in addition outside of the virtual classroom with office hours and one-on-one guidance, which is just great networking and mentorship for anybody who's looking to get into this space. So you do not need to quit your job. You don't, this is definitely designed so that you can do it part-time with the full-time job or any sort of like other curriculum or university program that you might be going through.
Yeah, we're trying to make it as inclusive as possible for you guys. So applications are already now open. Like what we mentioned earlier, we're actually already reviewing some really awesome candidates. But let's talk a bit more about the whole application process. What's that like?
Yep. So our application is 2 steps. One is the online application. That's what's already open now. And it's pretty fast to fill out. I think we're just trying to get a sense of like you as a founder, what you're trying to do, why you're interested in school. And then after that, our team, we do an initial review. The second step is going to be an interview process. This one's relatively straightforward. It will be behavioral. Again, we just want to understand what you're trying to do and how like TIA School can help you. So that's the 2-step application process. I will say that applications are rolling. So even though we're going to put a hard close on applications at the end of January, we only have a few slots for this first class. We're going to start pretty small and intimate to make sure everybody gets like the absolute best experience and most face time with our different mentors and lecturers as possible. And so it's a rolling application. So once we kind of have hit our numbers, we're going to close. So even though we should be open till end of Jan, and based on like the applications we're seeing so far, there's a chance that we will run out of slots earlier than that. So I guess if you are thinking about applying, I would just say do it sooner rather than later. I would hate for anyone to be disappointed on this.
Yeah. And it's really a strategic choice to keep it small, especially when we are delivering it virtually. It's really hard to reach out to people online and get them to interact. So it's really important to keep the class small and intimate. But then as cohorts continue, as the community grows, there's going to be a lot more people around that you can interact with. And then like after the 8 weeks, you can interact with people outside of your cohort, which is going to be interesting. And yeah, it's going to be kind of, it feels like a school almost. It really does. All right, I just want to encourage everybody to that's watching to pop in your questions if you have any. Just a quick reminder on that. And yeah, do you have any frequently asked questions, Maria, that you've encountered?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think people have asked, like, why are we doing this, and like who our various competitors are. So, which I think is a great question. So we're doing this because, like I said, we felt like there was this gap for Southeast, like great founders and how to start a startup in Southeast Asia. And, this, like as a company, Tech in Asia, we really believe in the golden decade of Southeast Asia. We believe that they're going to be literally like tens, hundreds of thousands of new startups being formed over the next decade here. And we also wanted to make sure that like there's as much institutional knowledge as possible being transferred over to this next generation founders. Like you don't need to be making the same mistakes as like the founders from 3 years ago, even last year, right? And so how do we kind of carry this forward? And so that was really important to us when designing school, which is why we are making it virtual, which is why we're making it open, and honestly why we're keeping it relatively small to begin with, to make sure that we have like absolutely nailed our product before we expand. That's why we're doing it. And then like when people ask about competitors, I think they're usually like, well, don't you think somebody else in this space is actually already doing it already? Actually, to me, the answer is no. Like what we have in our space is like a lot of great incubators, a lot of great accelerators, obviously a lot of great VC funds. But our goals are a little bit different. And you can actually see that based on the structure, right? So accelerators, incubators, VC funds, they take a share of equity, which is great. And I think like a totally valid point when you're ready to hit that point. But a lot of early stage founders, and especially people who are just starting to like think about the startup and like they're not quite ready there, equity is really expensive and also doesn't really mean anything. Like it's more important that you actually get a startup off the ground than before you even get into like that equity business. And we have obviously 2 whole classes dedicated to like the VC funding and investment process. So we can talk through all of this. But like at the end of the day, like I think a program fee driven curriculum and initiative is just a lot more straightforward. It gives people a lot more opportunity to explore this path. And I'll be the first to say, if we have amazing founders and startups coming out of this program, that's obviously great. And like, I want that to happen. But I also really believe that like the founder lifestyle and the startup lifestyle is not for every single person. And so if like you go through this program and you decide that it's actually a little too intense or not what you're looking for, not the right fit, this is like a much lower key way to do that and figure that out for yourself than potentially like dedicating 2 to 3 years of your life to start up before realizing that like this isn't what you wanted for your own career. And so not only would I not be upset, I would actually like welcome that sort of like self-discovery and awareness through this journey to make sure that like starting a startup is what you want to do. And if that's the case, then we're all here for it and we'll help you to create the most successful startup possible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will relate to that. They just want to get a sense of the structure and like, how do you actually do it? Answering how, and then deciding whether or not you want to do it. And then if you do decide you want to do it, you already have everything on hand, which is great. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, oh shoot, now I'm drawing, like, I have to talk about that. I kind of forgot about it. With school, what was it? do you want to have something while I think about what I wanted to say? It was an interesting one.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So one thing that we sneakily kind of put up on the website just earlier this week is some of our initial lectures. And so
yes, that's what I was trying to say. Yes, exactly. That is what I was trying to think about. Like, is there anything that we can preview or tease? I mean, this series of AMAs, like after us, is going to be actually it's already out. yeah, the next AMA invitation is already out, so we can already say who's gonna be the first lecturer of Tech in Asia School. Oh no, you do the honors.
Sure. So our opening lecturer is going to be Ramiz Ansar. He is the co-founder and CEO of Circles Life. So Circles Life is like this new age telco company. It's huge. And they are, I think, definitely Southeast Asia's first telco unicorn in this space, or tech-enabled telco unicorn. And Ramiz is amazing and such a good friend of her TIA, but he's teaching our opening session on the founder's journey. And I think this goes back to what I was saying in the previous bit, but like he'll really be talking about like what it's like to be a founder, the ups and downs of it, because I nobody should tell you that it's going to be this perfect path, right? But it is really rewarding and worthwhile if this is what you want to do. Ramiz, I think, is no stranger to this. He really understands. I think like he has been on the financial side, like he's been on the investment side. He has found his own fund before founding Circles Life. So he has played all the different roles, and I think he really understands this space and will do a great job. I'm really excited to see the insights that he brings in terms of opening up our course. But some of the other like awesome lecturers that we have, and you can start to see them on the website. We have Jillian T from Homage. She's like a badass serial entrepreneur, exited her first company, and Homage is doing really well here in Singapore and disrupting the space. So she'll be teaching product market fit. We have Rob Beer from Money Spark. He's, like actually writing a book on like successful founding teams and successful startup teams. So he'll be teaching the class on founding team dynamics. How do you work with co-founders, like what you need to keep an eye out for in the beginning. Andrea Baron Kelly from Aspire to teach us about finances, which is very relevant because that's obviously what Aspire is trying to change. And then Brian Ma and Suken from Iterative will be teaching our pitch class, and pitching is massive. And those two guys are both very successful Silicon Valley founders, turned like an accelerator partner. So I think they kind of, again, see both sides of the table on this one.
Yeah, it's really important when we look for the lecturers to helm these subjects that they have a lot of institutional knowledge, either on the subject or on the space, to give like the best education to you guys who are gonna potentially join. And I think with that we can wrap this up. And if you guys want to speak to Ramiz, just mark your calendars. It's on the 9th of December, which I think is a Thursday 9th of December at 5 p.m. Singapore time. You can already drop us your questions if you have them in mind, so that we can definitely get to them. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all.